Hello, everyone. I am your host, Peyton Challenger, and welcome back to Hanging Out on CUTV. Today, we have our little guest, and her name is Allison Steinhauser. She is an alumnus of CalU, and today we're going to bring her on the show for a little bit of show and tell. How are you doing, Allison?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm pretty dandy, if I do say so myself. So, Allison, what do you have for us today?
So, I actually have two things today. The
Ooh,
first thing is CalU related. I pulled out the tip off tournament from
okay.
the Convocation Center. I'm one of the few owners of the t-shirt. So when the Convocation Center opened the weekend of December 3rd, 2011, they passed out these t-shirts. They had the women's basketball players and they had one for the men's basketball players too. So pretty happy that I was able to find this and pull this out because not very many CalU alumni have this. The second thing I
That's
have, which is kind of going to
impressive.
lead into what we're going to talk about a little later in the show, is a actually Phoenix Coyotes hockey towel because I lived out in Arizona for
Okay.
about a year and a half and went to one of the Penguins games out there. So, again, not something many people in Western PA have from the
Yeah.
Phoenix Coyotes.
For sure, yeah. And that was whenever they were the Phoenix Coyotes, not the Arizona Coyotes, right?
No, they were the Arizona Coyotes. They weren't the Phoenix Coyotes.
Okay,
They were Arizona
okay.
at that point.
That's
So call
no
them Phoenix.
respect.
It's close enough.
Yeah, honestly, I always catch myself. I'm like, oh, we got the Phoenix Coyotes. Oh, nope,
Yeah, no,
Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah,
So those are my two things. I thought I'd represent one thing that was really CalU related because I spent a lot of time at CalU, a lot of time with CUTV, and that was some of the best years of my life. And then, of course, hockey, which we're going to talk a lot about coming up. So I thought I'd
I
bring those.
can't wait. I cannot wait. Hockey is definitely my forte. We have a show at CUTV called Forward Checking. It's hosted by Trevin Catellis and Nolan Beisline. I've been on the show a few times. So, it's a really great time. So we'll ask you, do you think hockey's going to come back?
Fingers crossed. I think it is going to come back. I think the players have started practicing in the small groups, and I feel like with the training camp date set for July 10th, that you're gonna see the players coming back. I've seen a lot of on social media, on Instagram, especially players coming back to their home cities. So I think as we get closer to that July 10th training camp, we're gonna see more players coming back.
That's what I really hope so too. My one friend, he former alumnus, he used to go to Cal, but he told me that the Montreal players, a lot of them haven't gotten back into Canada due to the restrictions that Canada has for the coronavirus. So they haven't been able to practice with their teams, the Canadians, who the Penguins will play in the first qualifying round. So maybe that will affect how they play as a team. I don't know, but it definitely should be interesting. I'm really excited for it to come back. I think it's going to come back too. I need it to come back. I'm
I
going
know. I've
insane.
been really enjoying when the Penguins are posting the videos on social media. Like even though it's only a
Yeah,
2 or 3 minute snippet, like I'm that hockey nerd that's watching it and trying to figure out what players are there and who's practicing together to try to figure out lines. So even just that little bit of hockey every day is exciting for me.
definitely. I think they actually posted a video with Jake Gensel
Mm-hmm.
skating around the rink a few times, which was very nice. I actually was at the game where he got injured,
Okay.
and I think they played the Senators, if I'm not mistaken. It was the last game of 2019 before they jumped into the new year, and he got the goal and he just slammed against the boards, and oh my gosh, it was so disheartening. It's like, yeah, you want to celebrate the goal, but one of our best players just got hurt,
Yeah.
and it was so sad. Oh my gosh, it was horrific. Actually, it was bad. Uh,
Yeah, it was.
so
It was a really interesting year for the Penguins because they had so many injuries to so many different players. And it just seemed like as they'd start to get on a roll, someone else would get hurt. I really
exactly.
feel like the shutdown came at a good time for them. I feel like they had a lot
Mhm.
of injuries. They had a lot of players that weren't maybe at 100%, it seemed like, or weren't playing up to their potential. And so I think the Penguins probably really benefited the most because instead of getting Gensel back maybe for the Eastern Conference Final if they made it that far, they're going to have him for the whole playoffs.
Exactly. That's going to be very key for the Penguins. The Penguins are a really talented team. They got Crosby, Malkin, Gensel. Now, Letang's getting older, but he's still producing. Matt Murray is still an elite goaltender in my eyes. I think to everyone's eyes, he should still be an elite goaltender. You still got the youth there. You got people coming up in the depth chart. So it's a really good time for the Penguins. It's like you said, this Corona stuff happened at a perfect time for the Penguins. And I'm excited to see everybody play again.
Yeah, I
So
am too. I think it came at a
yeah,
good time for a couple of different teams too. I think Carolina is an interesting team. They were faltering a little bit, but now they have to go and
yeah,
play one of the teams that was one of the hottest teams at the break in the Rangers. So that's going to
oh
be a really
yeah,
interesting matchup to see what happens there. I think when you have the play-in rounds and these teams are coming back, it's going to be. I think the rankings almost have to go out the window because you don't know who's been able to stay in shape, who's been able to stay on the ice, who's been able to continue to practice. Injuries are going to happen, and it's going to be
oh
really,
yeah,
really interesting. And this is probably going to be the most difficult cup to win, at least in the past several years.
most definitely. Like you were saying, you got to take in consideration. Have people actually have the players been working out? Have any of their skills digressed? I completely agree with you. This cup will definitely be the hardest if the playoffs actually happen. That is, but yeah, it's interesting you bring up the Rangers because the Rangers are very hot. They have Artemi Panarin, Zibanejad has really been producing for them. I think they have a hot young stud in net. They have Gorgiev. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think Gary just said I pronounced it wrong, but anyway, they're a really young team. I really hope good things happen to them. Uh, my Penguins side doesn't want anything good to happen with them, but as a connoisseur of the sport, I really want them to start picking it up and make good on that rebuild that they put out a couple years ago.
Yeah, and it'll definitely be interesting because you have kind of a different dynamic in the NHL. You have a couple of really young teams like Colorado, Edmonton. I'd throw the Rangers in there as well for the most part. And then you have your more veteran teams like the Penguins. And I think one of the biggest factors is going to be where is that energy going to come from? Because I know I've been watching a lot of the classic games on AT&T Sportsnet and different videos on YouTube while I'm bored, just searching for random things. And the atmosphere that you typically have in a playoff series is, from the fans' perspective, is incredible. It's so loud in the building when the home team scores, that when there's a big hit, a great pass, a good save, whatever it may be, and you're not going to have that at all. So are
Exactly.
the young guys going to be able to bring the energy? Is it going to affect, an older team a little bit more, or is it going to affect them less because they're going to be able to find that energy from within? I know, like, whenever I'm thinking about it a little bit, I look at a player like Patrick Hornquist, for example. He's that energy guy that I think could get
Okay.
them fired up on the bench no matter what, whether there's, thousands of people
Definitely.
outside as well, or there's nobody in the building, which is going to be the case. And so I think they're really going to be looking at players like that on every team to get them going because they're going to have to find that motivation from within and that energy from their bench instead of from the fans.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back to Hanging Out on CUTV. My name is Peyton Trollinger. We're now going to cut to an interview that we were able to do. We were able to catch up with a professional disc golfer, and her name is Sarah HOKOM.
Hello and welcome back to CUTV. I'm Gary Smith, and I have the pleasure of interviewing at this time. And it's hard to say that I think you might be the first person we can ever say this about, that she's in the top 1% of her profession in the entire world. Professional disc golfer and former world champion, Sarah HOKOM. Sarah, thank you for spending some time with us here on CUTV.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And it looks like it's nice and sunny where you are. And we were talking before, and you're located in Idaho, which I didn't realize is probably like, it's 11:30 now. We're doing the interview, so it's probably going to be like, what, 6:30 in the morning there? So I really appreciate you taking the time, waking up early to being a part of this.
It does kind of feel a little early, even though it's not quite that early, but I got my my birdie fuel here.
Excellent. Excellent. High octane stuff right there.
Disc golf theme puts you in the mood to play some disc golf right from the beginning of the day.
And there's always no day is a bad day to disc golf. That's what I've been finding. But first of all, Sarah, we have to start with the beginning and the standard question. What's your background and how did you become a professional disc golfer?
My background is pretty normal. I mean, I played sports as a kid, a lot of sports as a kid. I went to college and played volleyball. And then after college, I kept playing volleyball, but I was struggling to be able to play as much as I wanted. And I discovered disc golf as a thing I could do with a group of friends or solo at any time of the day, literally. So I kind of switched over and quit playing volleyball and started playing disc golf. A friend of mine had invited me to play with him. And when the first time we went out, he hit an ace by ricocheting off a tree, which was pretty awesome. And then I joined a little league. Some local people I met on the course invited me to join the league. It's a doubles league, and I played the first league night with my significant other at the time, and I sucked. And I was like, man, I got to get better at this because I'm embarrassing myself here in this league situation. And so I started playing every day, and then that turned into local tournaments, into regional tournaments, into national tournaments, and then got to a point where I thought I could do this full time. So I quit my job. I was teaching high school science at the time, and I quit my job and went on tour full time.
Was there like an aha moment where you thought like, okay, hey, this is something that I'm very, very good at. I'm obviously in the upper echelon, but now I can make a full-time go of it. What was like that aha moment?
I think a combination of having early success. I played the Bowling Green Amateur Championships as my first big event. And there was like 20 women. It was a big field, maybe 18, something like that. It was a big field. And I had no expectations. I had never played a tournament. I was super nervous. And then I ended up making the final 9 and then came back and tied for the win at the end of the final 9. And I ended up losing in a putting contest, a putt off in a gym to not win the title. But it kind of showed me early on that I moved up pretty much immediately after that to pro. And then I started kind of playing summer events while I was still working. And I think those summer events, I had some success there where I was able to take the win over some really good competition. And then, I kind of just took the leap because I was just so obsessed with it. Without realizing how difficult it is to make a living as a woman in this sport. There's kind of this idea that you see people doing it. So you're like, okay, it can be done, but you don't realize all of the little things that go into actually making it happen. So I kind of just jumped off the cliff and found a parachute on the way down.
Well, what's tour like out there? I mean, you've been a touring pro for about a decade now, correct?
Yeah.
What's it like going from tour to tour? I know this right now as we talk in the summer of 2020, everybody's schedule has been uprooted, but typically what's it like going on a tour? When's the tour season start for you? When do you get on the road? What's it like on the road?
Typically I'm starting sometime the end of February, early March is really when it usually starts. And then I'm usually done by middle of October. And at that point, I have last couple of years in the off season, I have some off season work putting up Christmas lights for a friend of mine in Dallas. Also a former touring golfer, Brian Mace. So I do that for about 2.5 months in the off season, and then the rest of January, February, after that's over, I'm training for the next season. On the road, it's, you're really in a different city every week. So, you're spending usually Monday, Sunday, and Monday, end of Sunday, all of Monday traveling, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practicing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday compete, Monday travel to the next place. Even though I always take Monday off to rest my body. You're never really taking a day off because you're still traveling on that day. So it's a challenge to be just kind of living in a van or on the road for so many months. It definitely takes a toll on your body, but for me, it seems to work.
And looking back, did you ever think that maybe, no matter what you were going to do in life, did you ever think you'd get to see the country in the way that you have? And what are some of your favorite highlights from being on tour? That could be a tournament. I know probably the 2012 World Championships has got to be up there, but some other fun memories from being on tour for the past 9 or 10 years.
Yeah, I never really thought I would have a career in this manner. But I love it. I really love to just travel and see the country. I would say some of the highlights, there's always highlights going to Maple Hill for me. It was one of the first big events I ever played. And then in the last few years, handful of years, I've been able to camp right on site. So that's always a highlight, to just camp in the place that you're playing and just be there, and all the activities and the gorgeous course. I don't know if you can hear that. My dad is working in his wood shop behind me. Can you hear that noise? Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was trying to figure out if you were on a racetrack or if that was wood shop stuff. So
yeah, my dad's a carpenter, a retired carpenter by trade, and he's helping me revamp the inside of my van a bit. So he's building me some shelves, and so he's standing it right now.
Oh, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe next time we do an interview, we'll get a tour of the van and see all the fine work that he's done. So,
yeah, I'm excited. I've had it for 5 years now, and I always continuously try to improve it. And I think it's really close to being as good as it can be.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question. Obviously, you're gearing up to get back on tour. Most of the country is getting back to some semblance of normalcy. But what are you most excited for about getting back to? I know the national tour in the pro tour, there are changes left and right. I know there's no world championships this year, but are you excited to at least get back to some semblance of touring for 2020?
100%. Yes. I am out of my element being in one place for a couple of months. I have enjoyed being around my family, and this time of year, I usually am only around them in the wintertime. I've also gotten to play in the local Boise Ladies League, which I haven't been a part of a league since, some of my early days of playing. So that's been really fun to get to know those ladies and just play every week with a bunch of, we're getting 10 to 20 women out there. So it's a really,
that's awesome.
It's a strong league.
What was the reaction whenever they first saw you standing up? You're like, wait, that's Sarah HOKOM. She's coming to our league tonight. What was that like?
Well, I think I know the league lady, Christy. I know her pretty well, so she kind of let everybody know. And I don't know. I think some people are maybe a little nervous, but I've gotten to play with, I think, everyone, maybe with the exception of 2 women I haven't gotten to play with. But I think that they're comfortable with me now. I'm a casual,
That's got to be
awesome playing golf.
That's got to be an awesome thing for the members of the league to play with a touring pro, because I know a few years ago, we talked a little bit before we started the recording. I had the opportunity to attend a clinic that you did out here in Pittsburgh, and I was just in awe. But it was, I think, you and Nate Sexton, and just the amazing shots. It's one of those things you don't realize how good you have to be a touring pro. And the first time I saw your forehand and where you threw it on the one hole, I'm like, that is amazing. It was outside of any realm of physics or anything I could ever imagine.
Yeah, I always find disc golf to be far more entertaining and exciting in person. I mean, I think that the media teams do a great job of giving us coverage as the best that they can do, from remotely, but it's definitely much different if you see it in person.
Yeah, like I said, I going into that clinic, I still don't have a forehand. I have the worst forehand the East Coast and maybe the United
Well,
States.
I
And
guess I did a terrible job then. Shoot,
no, no, no.
I guess I owe you another one.
It's the archer, not the arrow. Believe me, I've tried everything you've done. I think at some point my body just says no. But what are some of the tips? We can go into that. What are some tips if people are struggling to have a forehand like myself?
Sure. Yeah, I can give you a couple tips. Typically, I find specifically that when people are transitioning from a primary backhand to trying to learn a sidearm, they're used to having a stiff wrist. In backhand, you have a passive wrist. As you're pulling through, you're not moving your wrist like this, but in sidearm, with your arm turned the other direction, you do have to move your wrist laterally. And so I think a lot of people get stuck with their wrist in a neutral position and then try to just push forward from that position. And they really need to time the backswing of their arm with the backswing of their wrist, and then actually get that extra rotation by snapping their wrist during the shot, which is an added movement compared to backhand where you have no wrist movement. So I think that's one thing that makes it slightly more complicated, is that you have this added hinge on the wrist. So that's one tip, is to make sure you get the wrist all the way back. Another quick one would be if you tend to find that your sidearms are flipping up to an anhyzer and they're only coming out with an anhyzer angle, I'd recommend in the backswing to actually tip the wing down. And then as your wrist comes through, oftentimes it doesn't come through perfectly flat, parallel with the ground. It usually comes through and turns just a little bit. So if you tip the wing down off your backswing, then when your wrist comes through, it'll actually tip the wing up to flat, and you'll be able to throw a flat shot instead of an anhyzer all the time. And that'll get you away from throwing really overstable discs. You can start to throw neutral fairways and even understable discs.
Well, I might need to have you on Zoom the next time I have a league night, because we have the third hole at our North Bank course is a downhill, requires a forehand around a Mando tree, and I don't think I've hit it in about 4 months. So I figure if I have you on the call, you can talk me through it, and at very least, your dad's a carpenter. He can maybe take the tree down. I'll create a diversion, because the Mando tree, I think it looks sick. I think it needs to come down, but everybody in my league says
well, they could always put a post up to replace it.
Darn it. So the bottom line is I'm going to have to learn this forehand, and I definitely will practice it. And
good news. I think I'm hoping to come to Pittsburgh this season for the Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open. As long as we can get a few more women signed up. There's very few right now. But if I can get if there's a few more women that want to come play it, I'd love to come play Moraine again and work on doing a clinic while I'm there.
That would be awesome. And if you do, and I highly recommend if Sarah's able to do a clinic, to go out, because the way she explains just the forehand, I know that was a very quick explanation, but her full clinic is just amazing. Learned a lot. And that kind of leads us into one of my final questions here. And it seems to be a big question in disc golf. Like just tips to help people get involved in disc golf. I work at a college, and we have a lot of college students. We have a small course at a farm here, but what are some of your tips to try and get people involved? Because everybody I've gotten involved have become very active in it and love the sport. And I think, you can probably say the same for people you have, but what can we do to help get more people out there enjoying this amazing sport?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as people getting involved, like getting more people to play, I really think it's all about awareness, sharing disc golf videos, inviting your friends to come play with you or family members to come play with you. I think that's a really important part, and then just like every disc golfer probably does all the time, is they just constantly talk about it, even to the annoyance of their coworkers and friends who don't play. So just keep them talking about it. This awareness, I think, is important. If you want to get involved in your local course, or just involved in the sport more than just as a player, I think it's a really great opportunity to volunteer for your community. When I was growing up, volunteerism was like a thing. Like it was something you had to do. It was just an expected thing. Like my family would go hand out Christmas baskets with the Salvation Army every year. We go volunteer at the rodeo. And like as an adult, it was lost on me when I first started playing disc golf. Like, oh yeah, volunteering, like that's a thing I should be doing. You know, when I was in my mid-20s, this is kind of my thought process. And with disc golf, you know, we get to play for free, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we don't really think about how the course got put in, who does the maintenance on it. We don't really think as players often like what the people running the tournaments have put in their time and effort in order to create this opportunity for you to get together with your friends and have a competition. You know, so even though disc golf is free, I like to say that disc golf isn't free.
Mm-hmm.
It may not cost money, but once you get involved and you start playing, like it's time to start giving back to the community in some way. You know, so disc golf isn't free, even if it doesn't cost much to play. So the ways you can give back, I think getting involved in the leadership in your home course. So as in, you don't necessarily have to take on a leadership role, but getting to know who the course pro or the course maintenance crew, the local club, you know, keeping track of the minutes for local club meetings, volunteering at your local club tournaments, volunteering to run a league for a night or take it over for the league director to give them a break. And then of course at bigger events, definitely volunteering to spot or help with water or do scorecards. There's so many ways to kind of give back to the community, even if it's, you know, adopting a hole in your local course and picking up sticks. You know, there's a lot of things you can do, even if it's just trash while you're playing. So yeah, I think it's time for all these people who love disc golf to start, you know, to start giving back, and we can make it even better if, you know, the more many hands make light work.
That needs to be on a t-shirt. And I know out here in the Pittsburgh area, everything has gone green. And the last couple of weeks, all throughout Facebook, the course promoters and people have been doing a great job cleaning the course, getting rid of the debris and getting ready for tournament season. And Sarah, before we let you go, obviously you're a touring pro. Where can people go online to find you or to help support you? I see you have the MVP Discs banner behind you. So if you want to tell people about the companies that sponsor you and anything we can do as fans to help you out on tour.
Yeah, I would very much appreciate some help on the road. I have some discs up on mvpproshop.com available. And then, so, you know, just liking and following my social media, both on Facebook and Instagram. I also have a very underdeveloped YouTube channel that may or may not be worth your follow. Video is not my strength. And then, of course, I got to thank Paragon Disc Golf, Zuka, Birdie Fuel, and I think that's it. Yeah. But yeah, please just like follow my social media pages. If you can grab a disc from MVP's Pro Shop, that'd be great. Otherwise, you know, come to one of my events. I have one scheduled in the Minneapolis area. I guess it's a little far. It's in Minnesota at the end of this month, and then I'll be scheduling some very quickly. Someone looking at Madison, Pittsburgh. I have a lead up in New Hampshire. Probably doing some stuff in the Northeast, and then on the East Coast over the course of the fall. So if you have a specific need in your area for me to come do something, like an event or a clinic, please reach out to me. And
I can honestly say, you know, you got back to me in like 8 minutes whenever I sent this request the other day. So you're very easy to get a hold of, and it's been a wonderful interview the last couple minutes, and wish you nothing but the best. And hopefully if you do make it to Pittsburgh, can kind of come up and be in the gallery, and you know, maybe it can work in that forehand of mine.
Yeah, I would love to work with you on it.
Sarah, thanks again. And you've been watching this little excerpt here on CUTV.
Colin, what's wrong, man?
I just don't know how my family back home in Millersburg, Pennsylvania can watch our stuff down here.
Well, they could follow us on Twitter, or they could like us on Facebook.
Yeah, but what about our sports? How can they watch those?
They could watch it live on our YouTube channel.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
another show and tell item that I wanted to show, but I couldn't find it, and I'm kicking myself right now. So one year while I was playing hockey, we went to a tournament in Connecticut. It's this big tournament. A ton of teams are there. We're playing this team from Rhode Island, and we noticed that we recognized one of the coaches on the Rhode Island team. Jim Craig, who was the goalie for the 1980 Team USA Miracle on Ice team,
Oh, wow.
was one of the coaches. We were playing against his daughter's team. Super exciting. After the game, he signed pucks for all of us. So I have a Jim Craig autographed puck somewhere in Newcastle, Pennsylvania at my parents' house. I don't know where it is, and I'm kind of kicking myself because that's a pretty cool piece of history.